across Australia, the wheels of industry turn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These machines are tough, and the teams of people running them are even tougher. From deep underground to high in the sky, these heavy metal marvels are essential to our daily lives. But what happens when these massive machines break down? Teams of mechanics, engineers, fitters and boilermakers step up to battle against tight deadlines in some of the harshest working environments on the planet. Doing the vital repair work to keep these heavy metal wonders of industry alive. On this episode of Mega Mechanics, at the world's largest coal export terminal, high voltage cables are causing some real problems for leading tradesperson Dan Wilk and his team.
There is 6,600 volts running through this cable.
A shutdown is ordered, but before anything is off the ground, there's an issue.
We've come into unexpected dramas that we hadn't allowed for.
Big bulldozer rebuilds have the heat on Shane Johnson to stay on track at the Hastings Deering mine shop in Mackay.
When's the pressure on? When the customers failed another track.
Bringing these mega machines back to new takes temperature and tools to the extreme.
So we've got basically an overgrown MIG welder.
And at the New Ackland coal mine, solving the problems that keep the wheels in motion is the job of the breakdown crew.
We can get something very minor to something very major. Every day is different.
The team receive constant calls for help to make sure the mine's mighty machines stay on the move.
This one here, we've got a coolant leak.
Ian Parry has alarms sounding and a train weighing in around 130 tonnes raised in the air.
We can't get the framework down, so something's not married in properly.
He needs to get rolling and remove a motored wheel set, but safety is the number one concern.
Hey Ian, is it safe to take this out now?
Port Waratah Coal Services in Newcastle, New South Wales is the largest coal export facility in the world. With an export capacity of 145 million tonnes of coal, around 1,200 ships are loaded each year at the Port Waratah Coal Terminal, bound for destinations across the globe. Being the number one global leader requires ongoing preventative maintenance, led by Superintendent Ross Van Dyke.
We have a team of tradesmen and supervisors that work on a daily basis. So we have 46 all up, that includes 2 supervisors, 24 fitters, 22 electricians. We work 24/7. But from a maintenance point of view, any sort of delay and any mechanical or electrical breakdown can have effect on the coal chain.
Meeting the demands of multi-million-dollar coal customers in Japan and Southeast Asia means one machine down could delay delivery. And right now, there's a fault inside the main power cable on one of the big guns. Reclaimer 411 is heading in for a super-sized service, and electrical specialist Daniel Wilk is on the front line.
The reason we're changing this cable is the fibre optic core has failed inside the cable, which is important because these machines are autonomous and they need to communicate with each other, and without that fibre optic cable we can't do that.
Repairs of this magnitude take months of planning and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the advanced technology that these bucket wheels need to function cannot be compromised. The job schedule will mean 10 days of shutdown, which has a huge cost in lost productivity. So the decision has been made to capitalise on this time and also repair fatigue damage on the cable reeler. Each bucket wheel reclaimer has its own cable reeler, responsible for winding and unwinding kilometres of high voltage cable as the machine moves around the yards. For this job, the cable will be cut and removed from the enormous 10.5 tonne rotating cable reeler, which will then need to be taken off-site, repaired, then returned for reconnection. The cable and cable reel have both been faithfully in service for more than 18 years, and today they're coming off this mega machine.
Are you declaring an emergency, sir?
Watch all episodes of Ice Pilots. Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required. Download Veely now.
To get the job started, it's time to hit the brakes, cut the power and cut the cable.
There is 6,600 volts running through this cable, and we've isolated everything and we've earthed everything ready for it to be disconnected in a safe manner.
Cutting through high voltage cable with a power saw poses dangerous risks. Consequences from human error can be fatal. Dan's team of experts must sign on to a high voltage permit to give them authority access.
Gav's about to cut the cable. We've got a power saw there ready to go. We're not sure how this job's going to go, but it should take between half an hour or it could take 5 minutes.
Gav packs muscle into hardcore sawing at the power supply box. He's through, but it's not time to pack away the power tools just yet. The cable also needs cutting from the reeler itself. The cable contains a fibre optic core, 2 low voltage control cables and 3 high voltage cable conductors.
The end of the trailing cable coming through the middle here, and then we terminate those onto the slip ring on the inside, and these brushes bring the power onto the machine itself. 6.6 thousand volts travels through those slip rings, through these brushes and onto the machine to supply the machine with power. This cable reel is 18 years old, and so it's time to give it a good birthday.
Peter Anshaw and his lifting crew move straight in to assess the removal, refurbishment and reinstallation of the reeler.
What's the scope of work? What are the hazards? What are the controls? And what are the other activities that the other people that we might have conflict on the machine?
As the 100-ton lifting crane heads onto site, Peter's team are finalising access, electrical work and bolt removal.
Have to set up the access scaffold onto the belt in our working at heights static line. That allows the guys to remove the base plates in the bottom frame. We've got electrical guys who are disconnecting the 6.6 from the slip ring housing. Once the pendulum out, the bolts are removed.
With the job as big as this one, Port Waratah's terminal manager Wayne Carman is on site to support his staff.
Part of the maintenance guys' deals is that they take the machine, they do the repairs, they return it to us in a timely manner, and that when they've returned it to us, the operators can push the button and it goes.
Everyone knows there's a need for speed to get Reclaimer 411 back in business. But for Wayne, there's only one priority.
It's about making sure that we give the guys enough time to do it safely, in a controlled way, in a planned way, rather than put pressure on people. We don't do that. They know what's got to get done and we'll get an update.
The question is now, are Peter and his crane crew good to go?
At this stage, I can't see anything holding us up.
But has Peter spoken too soon? 950 kilometres north of Brisbane is the coastal city of Mackay. Nicknamed the sugar capital of Australia, the region also benefits from a large mining operation in Queensland's central Bowen Basin. Home to the state's richest coal seams, with over 37 open-cut mines and 13 underground mines in operation. The recent spike in coal price has upped the demand for additional heavy machinery to work the mines. The Hastings Deering Mine Maintenance Workshop in Mackay is a massive service centre with 750 employees from trade specialists, part suppliers and support staff. Shane Johnson heads up the Track and Weld division. His team are specialists in the field and his workshop one of the busiest in the country.
So tracks are what moves your dozer. They go on your track frame, so that's when your dozer's moving forward, they're gripping the ground and pushing your dozer forward or back. So they're a high wear product on the machine. They're in contact with the ground all the time and you've got the whole weight of the machine being pushed by these one parts. So they're always getting worn in high corrosive or high abrasive conditions.
In the workshop today, a Cat D11 dozer is in for an overhaul that begins with its tracks. The tracks on this 100-ton mega machine weigh over 6 tonnes each, made up of 41 individual plates called shoes and 164 bolts. The track must be dismantled piece by piece for full reconditioning. The first step in the process is to get the shoes up on the press. On these bigger dozers, they can be almost a metre wide. The plates are either machined clean or an epoxy paint is applied to stop corrosion. The shoes are attached to the track chain, a series of massive links, each of which must be taken apart, cleaned, resealed, oiled and tested for leaks. 16 tracks a week are cleaned and reassembled. In a 7-day rotation, teams work shifts around the clock. It's the workshop that never sleeps. 40 hours in total for one track is the budget target. But if it's from a dozer that's been on a coal stockpile or salt water, there's extra machining and blasting needed to get the corrosion off, blowing it out to a 56-hour task. This makes Shane's job scheduling maintenance a constant juggling act.
When's the pressure on? When the customer's failed another track and they need that track back to replace the one that's failed.
Work on the shoes and chains of a dozer track takes several days of around-the-clock attention. But that's just a small portion of the hundreds of tasks to complete a full overhaul, which will see them out of action for 6 weeks. And the next component needs an unusual combination of fire and ice. 25 kilometres from the township of Oakey in regional Queensland, the open-cut pit at New Ackland Coal Mine is already a hive of activity this morning. Keeping the site's huge fleet of massive machinery on the go is a round-the-clock job for the breakdown crew, a group of experienced mechanical fitters.
Most heads for today. H401 restricted sump. Has underground diggings there. Possible gas.
The team constantly travel across the site, and for Nathan Sutton, his first port of call is Dozer 611. This beast of a machine is a Cat D11, the largest dozer in the fleet. It packs more than 800 horsepower, but it's not up to its usual fighting form. The dozer has been given a stop work order because of an issue with the relief valve. Relief valves are used to regulate pressure in the dozer's hydraulics. Too much pressure and the system could literally blow apart. But too little, which is the problem on this dozer, and there's not enough pressure for the hydraulics to function correctly.
We've had the job try set the pressure again, but the spring's obviously too damaged and won't get correct pressure.
Unfortunately, the replacement part the team needs isn't on hand. So while it's sent for from the warehouse, there's a 102-tonne mining truck in need of attention.
It's run out of air. Needs air to start.
The air-driven starter motor just needs a dose of compressed air, and this 5.8 metre tall monster truck is back in business. It's not the only mechanical beast that's running low on air this morning. Craig Jackson in the supervisor's office calls Nathan on the two-way radio.
35 to 36, Nathan.
Yeah, 36.
Nathan, 008, water carts reported POS6 flat tyre.
Oh, mate, I'll go check her out.
Water trucks are vital to mining sites. They control dust and also play an important role in fire prevention. With a full tank, these trucks can haul 150,000 litres of water. With one of the 4 rear tyres blown, that's a huge weight for the others to bear. So letting the sprays run is the simplest way to fix that. The solution is a new tyre. At over $26,000 each, it's a trip to the workshop for the tyre change. Now Nathan can return to Dozer 611. He's been advised the new relief valve is on its way, so he's under the pump to get this 102-tonne machine prepped and ready. He's on target for now, but not if any emergency call-outs come through. In Australia's third largest city, Brisbane, the main rail depot is the epicentre of city train maintenance. On average, 53 million people travel on passenger trains every year, and schedules need to run on time. Even the smallest issue can have a compounding effect. So when a train not getting full power is reported, it's returned to the maintenance depot for analysis. It's up to working group leader Ian Parry to rectify the issue and get this train back on the tracks and fully operational for the PM peak.
We're going to be taking out motor 3. We've had a report saying that it's out of rounds. What that means is that the bushes aren't going on the comms inside the motor. So what it says is that when it's out in traffic, you're only getting 7 motors driving the train instead of 8.
Ian Parry has been a fitter and mechanic across the world, from steelworks to shipyards, and now to trains, where he's become a specialist in what they call the jacking road. The jacking road has 12 pairs of jacks, one to support each axle of the 3-car train as it's raised. Then, to be able to access an individual wheel set, body supports are brought up, enabling the main jacks to be lowered. The wheel set can then be removed and have its motor changed over. First, Ian and his apprentice Dale Westthorpe raised the body supports.
Well, if you didn't have the body support up there, you can't do any other thing on this machine. You must be in this mode. If you didn't have these up, and you bring your whole support down.
With the body supports in place, Ian extends further safeguards to balance the 130 tonnes of train currently raised in the air.
The safety on this is mainly on the motor itself. You've got to have a scissor lift underneath. You're looking at least 1 to 1.5 tonne on a motor and a wheel set, so you've got to be careful all the time.
There's also a schedule to keep and a lot of work to be done to get this train back on track. The team are well aware of the safety risks, constantly weighing up the hazards and planning accordingly.
We have a dedicated team over here, and we all know what we're supposed to do. Everybody knows their job, and obviously we still go around, we look after everybody else. The main thing is that with having a dedicated crew over here, we're reducing the time on how long it takes to do these sort of jobs.
Electrician Damien Fuller is on site. He's made short work of disconnecting the necessary cables.
Now we've got into a different mode because we want to drop it down 50 mil, then we can get the jacks out.
But the system has locked and won't budge. It's a sophisticated series of checks and balances on a piece of machinery that Ian is an expert in operating. Will his experience shine through and get the engine changed over in time for the PM peak? Back at Port Waratah, Peter Anshaw and his crew are ready to lift out the 10.5-tonne cable reeler from Reclaimer 411.
We've got the 100-tonne crane come in from Boom. Once he loads the counterweight, the boys are going to reverse up the ramp, come in here, parallel with the cable reeler, and that'll give us around about a 16-metre radius. We'll be well within the lift zone there, ready to lift it off.
Peter's got to stay on schedule because this reeler needs to head out on the road for a major off-site repair.
And we've got our other off-site contractor. He's on the phone this morning, when are we going to see it, because they've got a lot of work to do and they want to get that underway.
The team at MCM Manufacturing know they have a tight turnaround to repair the reeler, so they're gearing up to receive it. Back at base, the spreader beam is winched into place.
When the lock's going on, then we're ready to go. We set up the barricaded area, get our equipment up onto the machine, and we get started. Everything going to plan, we'll be on target.
A smile of relief from Peter as the lift begins. But the crane driver signals a problem.
We've come into unexpected dramas that we hadn't allowed for, and we started the lift. What we found, we had 3 corners of the cable reeler. It lifted with the crane. He reached his 10-tonne capacity.
Hydraulic cylinders on the back of the crane, required to stabilise the vehicle, have paralysed Peter's plans.
We can't get him up, we can't get him down, so we've come to a halt until the mechanic gets on site and hopefully gets us out of trouble.
This is a disaster for Peter and his team. Their schedule is now way off track and time is ticking.
Put us behind because we've got a crew in the workshop eagerly waiting for the cable reeler to turn up to get started.
The delay has a domino effect. Jeff Gaddies is waiting to transport the reeler on his truck to MCM's fabrication workshop.
A lot of times you get holed up like this, and it's out of our control, so you just got to sit there and wait and grin and bear it.
MCM are waiting to refurbish the reeler. Dan and his crew are waiting to replace the cable. And Terminal Manager Wayne Carmen is waiting to get Port Waratah fully operational. This is a serious setback.
My job is to make sure that the plan that's developed, I deliver. And when I say I deliver, I'm accountable for it, and obviously Ross, being the maintenance superintendent, will let me know if something's starting to go haywire.
After suffering a 4-hour stoppage, the crane is now given the all clear and Peter's crew are under the pump.
Yep.
Chain locks are secured and final checks are made before the big lift.
There's two gussets that sit against this wall here.
Now fully suspended, this is a tense moment for the crew. There's a lot of money, not to mention time and effort, up in the air. And a slip, a gust of wind or a failure of the crane could be catastrophic for not just the reeler, but the crew. It's all in the crane operator's hands. Cautiously, he manoeuvres the cable reeler and, showing his skill and precision, guides it safely down. Finally loaded onto the truck, there's not a minute to lose. But the truck carrying the reeler has come to a standstill.
Because of the size of this reel, it was just on the 3.5 mark. I can't go anywhere with it, so I had to just sit outside the gate and wait.
Load restrictions on public roads means the reeler is too wide to travel in peak hour traffic. They've missed the window of time to get it out in daylight. Dan's day is going from bad to worse.
I get a bit uneasy when there's times like this. We need to get moving. It's kind of that time where you're sitting still when you know you've got to do something big, and you know you're going to have to work a bit harder later on to make up for this time.
While Jeff, his truck and the cable reeler take a break, the repair team are waiting in their workshop, losing valuable hours. Will they have enough time to be able to repair the reel? In the Mackay Hastings Deering mine shop, the track team is working around the clock to carry out a midlife service on the dozer tracks that work the Bowen Basin coalfields.
Hey mate, how's this one going? Yeah, not too bad, bud. Just about to put the bearings in. All right. Well, I'll get out of your road and let you get back to it. No worries.
And today, it's not just mechanics, but science that's helping things along. In the dozer track frame sits the pivot shaft bushes. This is where the track frame mounts onto the dozer. The shaft is constantly rotating at angles to accommodate the terrain. For dozers working at least 20 hours a day on a coal mine, that's a lot of wear and tear. The midlife service for these parts means a good clean and then refitting with a perfect seal, which involves a process called an interference fit. The pivot shaft bushes are submerged into a tank of liquid nitrogen at minus 200 degrees Celsius for around 10 minutes. In that time, the metal shrinks. On the floor, the track frame space that the bush has to fit is heated with a gas torch. With one metal part expanded from heat and the other contracted from freezing, there's a very short window of time for one to slide into the other perfectly.
Straight in.
As each part returns to ambient air temperature, friction holds the pivot shaft bush in permanent place. But if it's not timed just right, or if the track frame has cooled after heating, the bushes expand back to size rapidly. That can mean a little bit of old-fashioned coercion, inserting a drift slide and hitting with a sledgehammer. It's vital the bush seats perfectly. It takes much of the load of the 91-ton dozer. A poorly fitted bush won't last the next 8,000 hours of work it has ahead. Even slightly off means cutting the part out and starting over again.
Happy day. Good.
And if you thought these guys had a tricky task working with sub-zero temperatures, the next rebuild in the dozer workshop involves an arduous 10-hour shift at a scorching 300 degrees. The New Ackland mine in Oakey in outback Queensland, a place where temperatures can soar above 40 degrees Celsius. Challenging conditions for a challenging job. The extraction of over 13,000 tonnes of clean coal every day. Keeping the coal mine's extensive range of mega machinery running smoothly is the breakdown crew, an experienced, dedicated team of mechanical fitters. So far, Nathan's shift has seen him called out to deal with a few mining trucks.
3.6 and 3.5.
Yeah, gotcha, buddy.
Yeah, no good on that injector.
And a water cart with a flat tyre. Standing at over 4 metres, this monster towers over the mechanic working to get it back on the move. So do the tyres, each one nearly 3.5 metres tall and weighing in at 3 tonnes. One machine that's been a real attention seeker this morning is this 11-metre long hulk, a dozer with a damaged relief valve. This is the second time Nathan's been inside its belly today. A replacement part has been ordered, and Nathan's racing the clock to get this 102-tonne dozer primed for the installation. Every working minute lost out in the pit means less production, so it's crucial to get this mighty machine rolling again as soon as possible. The new valves arrived, along with another mechanic, and with 2 on the job, this beast will hopefully be back in business before the shift ends. Elsewhere on the mine, Mark Garth from the breakdown crew has been called out to check on truck number 311.
This one here, we've got a coolant leak. The header tank's got a leak on it somewhere. He obviously was on a break or was driving and noticed the coolant leak and pulled her in and called her up.
It's a 4-metre climb to get up to the cabin.
The gauge is showing empty. Maybe the operator hasn't seen any leak as such. Maybe he's just saw the gauge.
When huge machines like this are operating in extremely hot conditions, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Looks to be plenty of coolant. I'd say you've just got a faulty gauge.
A quick inspection proves Mark right.
Yeah, heaps of coolant. No problem. I'm probably just going to send it back to work and see how it goes.
And with that, Mark heads off to another call-out. Safety is the #1 priority for Ian Parry and the team on the jacking road at the main rail complex. They're going through the final checks before removing a 1.5-tonne motored wheel set.
You need people there to help you out and support you, and lifting things especially, a lot of heavy components.
It's a complicated job, but one Ian Parry is a specialist in.
You've got to lift the train up, you've got to support the carriage, and then to simplify it, you put a trolley underneath, take it out, get a new one built up, put that back on the trolley and back up again, and reverse all the things you've done the first time.
With a clear plan in his head, Ian needs to drop the jacks down, but movement is locked.
Come down.
The safety interlock on the jacks will prevent any unsafe conditions. These checks and balances are designed to protect the workers and equipment. The alarm is sounding, and it's Ian's job to find out why. He knows from experience it's just a matter of going through the process in fine detail. Nothing needs to be rushed.
We can't get the framework down, so something's not married in properly.
A delay could impact schedules, and if there's an issue with the jacks that can't be resolved, no work will be able to continue. Will Ian be able to silence the alarm and get back on track? Overnight, Port Waratah's damaged cable reeler finally made it to MCM's fabrication workshop. Richard Tate and his team wasted no time in getting on the tools.
We lost about 4 hours because of a crane malfunction. We've had 6 men round the clock from then.
MCM have been commissioned to refurbish the cable reeler. It's a gigantic job, and these guys won't stop until it's finished.
24 hours a day for 4 days. 6 men on each shift.
With the cable reeler in the workshop, Richard can properly assess the cause of the problems.
It's time by vibration, the actual motion itself. It's being such a light fabrication as it rolls, it fatigues, and we're repairing fatigue cracks.
This is a critical repair. The cable on Reclaimer 411 weighs over 15 tonnes. As the Reclaimer moves, the cable winds around the spokes of the reeler, called spiders. A breakage could not only tangle and damage the hundreds of thousands of dollars of cable, but could result in a massive arc flash or electrical explosion. To ensure the reconditioned reeler is safe and strong enough to last another 20 years, Richard inspects every detail.
They're going to be a tight fit because I think the existing holes are 22 mil.
Back at Port Waratah, Dan is feeling the fallout of unprecedented delays to his schedule. Can he claw back time while the reeler is off-site?
Just inspecting the electrical components from when the drum's been lifted, checking that they're all still intact and ready to go to be reconnected. So while that's off-site, we're doing work to refurbish a lot of that gear for when it returns.
Steaming ahead, Richard at MCM is confident about getting the reeler back on the road.
We've got another shift and a half to go, and it's well ahead of schedule. It's well planned, well manned. Blokes know what they're doing.
A final push and MCM finish in record time, a day early.
And now we're miles ahead. It should make them very happy.
And here it comes. Jeff trucks in the newly refurbished cable reeler.
Reelers turned up a day early. Boys out the shop at MCM have done a fantastic job to get us where we are today. Not only the time frame, but the quality is first class. Very happy with the quality.
Dan is also a happy man. His shutdown is now back on schedule. It's all hands on deck, and Dan is ready and raring to get this reeler back in. There's only 100 millimetres of clearance. It's a tight fit. 20 bolts secure it onto the machine, and the refurbished reeler is in.
Overall, our job on the cable reelers, it's gone very well.
All that's left to do now is wind on the cable and reconnect power. With such a straightforward task, what could possibly go wrong? At the dozer track division of the mine shop, constant shift rotations means these bays are in action continuously day and night. Currently, they're tackling dozers due for their mid-term service after working 8,000 hours on the coalface. The team must completely overhaul each machine. The next part for restoration is the idler, part of the undercarriage which bolts onto the front of the track frame and guides the rollers to line up the track with the load rollers underneath. The idler rotates constantly with the track as the machine moves, in operation day and night. The metal-on-metal fatigue from the track chains wearing against the idler takes its toll. The overhaul involves an arduous, sweltering process for both mechanic and machine. If the idler steel face is worn below 70%, it's hitting a softer, mild steel surface, which means a complete re-weld to build it back up to spec. An LPG burner is fired up to a heat of over 300 degrees. It's then applied at a constant rate to the surface for up to 10 hours.
If the idler gets below a certain temperature, it'll actually start to crack the surface, and then we have to throw the idler away and start again.
In the 30-plus degree tropics of Mackay, that constant heat is a concern for workers like Terry. They have to make sure they take fatigue breaks and stay well hydrated, always mindful of keeping hands well clear of that searing flame. With each rotation, the wire forms the base material for the weld and builds up the surface of the idler.
We have a flux granule, so that pours on top and the weld's performed underneath that grain to keep any impurities out until it's cooled down, until we chip it off for the next weld run.
Once the 10-hour weld is complete, the idler is put in a hot box to cool gradually. A midlife service also means a complete engine overhaul. The D11 dozer engines weigh up to 4.5 tonnes. Depending on the state they're in, the engines are either reconditioned or a brand new one is dropped in.
Once this is done, we'll put that next one.
And just as one dozer heads back to the mines, another is being pulled apart and rolled into the workshop, ready for attention. It takes 8 people every day around the clock for 6 weeks straight to get one of these machines broken down, cleaned up, and back out to site again. It's a massive amount of manpower. But for the machine, it's now set to face another year working 20-plus hour days, pushing coal. At the New Ackland mine near Oakey, it's the start of another busy day. The breakdown crew are ready to roll. The main focus of this team is to quickly attend to breakdowns and solve the issues as fast as possible. But they do have other duties.
We get a list of minor defects that we have to get to. Our day can involve us just going to fix a light bulb or wiper or something like that. or to a breakdown where tranny has failed and we may have to pull axles and tow it back to the workshop. We get something very minor to something very major. Every day is different. Don't know what to get.
Truck number 503 is his first call out. A loose cable needs to be secured in place.
So basically this job here is just a simple job. Just put an R-clip on that pin there, stop that from falling out. 5 minutes now, so it's half an hour later.
With the truck bed lowered and the ladder raised, number 503 can roll back into action. And Mark can make tracks to his next assignment, a broken down excavator. Attaching his personal lock to isolate the power supply means that no one can start or operate the machine, so he can safely get to the heart of this digger's issues.
The belts are still on.
Well, I found the problem, Sammy. It's only the exciter wire. It's just popped off. Most of the time you can pick it easy, it's low voltage, so just the exciter wire come off the alternator, so we won't know for sure. We'll chuck it on there and crimp her up a bit better and fire the girl up and we'll see how it runs.
Mark's connected the wire he thinks is causing the issue, and for good measure, he removes a seized hinge on the engine door. A quick fix that a boilermaker can repair properly later on.
At least for now we can shut the door.
With that locked off, time to see if Mark's hunch about the loose wire was right. As Sam revs the engine, it seems it was. And now, it's all good to go. Mark packs up, and it's off to check on Dozer 618, a machine that's going nowhere fast.
Got track tension problems.
This powerful D10 bulldozer rips and stacks coal in the pit. It may be the little brother to the D11s, but at around 70 tonnes and reaching nearly 4.5 metres to the canopy, it's definitely not small.
What we've got here, we've got loose track. Boys have tightened it up last night and it's come down again. They've got a bit of grease into it last night and obviously it's got a problem internally there by the looks of it. So what we'll do now, we've got a service truck coming along, we'll pump it up again.
These machines are battered with tough conditions, but a bit of TLC from Mark and they've soon got a new lease on life.
We try and nurse things through too until we get a space in the shed where we can get jobs in, keep the grease up to it until we get a bay free.
Grease is applied to try and prevent excessive wear, but while this is a quick fix to get things moving, it doesn't solve the larger problem. If left, a loose track can cause even more issues with the machine.
It just wears everything, it'll wear at the track frame, it'll wear your chain, all your idlers.
Looks like this beast of burden will need to be called into the workshop for extensive repair work. The safety warning alarm is sounding at the main rail complex in Brisbane. The sensors on equipment supporting more than 130 tonnes of rail cars have alerted the crew to an issue. The pressure is on Group Leader Ian Parry to work out what it is and how to solve it, so he can access a motored wheel set that needs to be removed.
Have any of these lights out?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Hopefully, the solution is as simple as replacing a slide.
Coming up. Right, coming down.
If Ian's solution has worked, he should be able to get the motored wheel set out and on the scissor lift.
Right, try again, eh? Well, it's worked. Sometimes it just jumps out of sync. It might only be a few millimetres and that'll stop all operations.
Success, and finally Ian is able to drop out the bulky jacks from under the motored wheel set. Now, with the motored wheel set on board, the trolley rolls along the tracks to meet the overhead crane. The 1.5 tonne piece of machinery is carefully lowered onto a specially designed rest.
Right, check it out, mate.
One of the chains is disconnected to free the traction motor. Then it's guided to a location where the two pieces can be safely separated. In order for a new motor to be fitted, the gear cases are removed and the old motor disconnected. The gantry crane again swings into action to deliver the wheel set to the newly reconditioned motor.
Yeah, just get a bolt in there and it'll bolt it down. We've just got 2 bolts and it's all you need. You've got backlash, but once that's down, it'll go.
With the wheel set fastened to the motor, Ian checks for the all-important backlash.
Got backlash in that.
The team install a copper shim that's about 0.4 of a millimetre thick, which creates the space or backlash, opening up a small space between the gear teeth that allows for lubrication.
Yeah, come down a little bit more, mate. Hopefully that should just line straight in. It's gone in.
With a bead of silicon to ensure the gear case join is watertight, the motor and wheel set are ready to go back into the train, and in record time. But they're not out of the woods yet.
Hang on, mate, do you want to put that thing in that bush? Put your feet.
The 1.5-ton wheel set and motor is transported back on the scissor lift, lined up precisely with its installation point and raised into position.
Put a bit more, Dan. One bit more.
The new traction motor is secured to the bogie of the train with a bolt through the reaction arm. This is what stops the motor from rotating on the axle and instead transfers the force to turn the train's wheels. Now secure, the main jacks can again be raised to take the weight and the scissor lift brought down so the undercarriage can be accessed.
Hey, is it safe to take this out now?
Yeah, of course it is, mate. Yeah.
Bolts tightened, electricals reconnected, and the team can celebrate a job well done.
I think it's a sense of achievement that you've done a job and everybody's safe, they can go home safe. And it's like a bit of a buzz, it's an adrenaline rush. It really is an adrenaline rush. And I like doing a job properly.
It's no surprise the train was back on track and ready to roll out with the rest of the fleet for the afternoon peak. Harsh conditions push the staff and the huge machines they operate to the limit every day. And when that breaking point is reached, the mine's breakdown crew are called into action.
35 to 37 Mackay, got a copy?
Yeah, copy.
Yeah, mate, we've had a brake failure on 004. Something about the park brakes not coming up. You able to check that out for me?
004 brake failure. Yep, no worries, I'll have a look.
When an issue with brakes is reported, the best way Mark can see what's happening for himself is to carry out what's called a rolling test.
It thinks the front brake lights are on, but they're not. It still rolls. So it's obviously a electrical error, which could be something like a pressure switch playing up, making it think the front brakes are applied.
Opening up the front cab panel, Mark inspects the cart's electrical system. Then heads down to check the brake lines. After scrambling under the truck's belly, searching for clues, and applying all the usual fixes, he can't uncover what's causing the issue.
36 to 35.
Copy.
Yeah, this 004 water cart doesn't appear to be a quick fix. Probably want it down the shed. I found a switch that looked to be unplugged, but that didn't fix it. It'll need a bit more investigation, this.
The pressure is always on to find a fix, and fast. But there's only so much that can be done out in the pit. And Mark knows he's not always going to be successful. But after a short test drive, it looks like he can celebrate a win after all.
Fixed. Maybe it was that plug.
Back at Port Waratah, the pressure is on to get Reclaimer 411 online. Dan's crew are gearing up to finally get stuck into some heavy lifting, installing the high voltage cable.
The cable behind us is 1.3 kilometres long. It's 10 kilos per metre, so it's 13 tonnes of cable. We've sourced this cable from Europe.
It's taken 6 months to get here and cost nearly $500,000. Today is the pinnacle of the operation, but Dan's hopes of getting the job done on time may have just been cut short.
They were unpacking the cable and we noticed that there was some damage. We've contacted the manufacturer and asked for direction on what we should do next.
There's no backup option, and Reclaimer 411 cannot operate without it. At this late stage in the shutdown, a damaged cable is a catastrophe.
We're waiting for Roger to come on site from Reese, who's going to give us some professional advice on what's required to repair the cable.
High voltage fibre optic jointer Roger Devery arrives to inspect the cable.
It's just outer sheath damage, so we're doing a vulcanised repair, so we'll take the outer sheath off, back to where the damage stops, then we'll be wrapping with vulcanising tapes that won't damage any of the internals of the cable, the power or the fibre optic side.
With a cable repair pending, it's now crucial that Peter and his team stay on target.
We've got some boys on the other side there that are setting up the cable ruler winch ready to wind the new cable onto the machine.
Time to lock on.
The most critical part is getting the cable from this reel and into the machine where we want it to be, and that'll be probably the most difficult thing.
As the cable is wound onto the reconditioned reel, the first loop is critical. They must have clear entry into the slip ring box for reconnecting power.
So the people inside the drum will be forming a little bit of a chain. My main concern is the manual handling aspects of physically using men to manoeuvre this cable.
10 kilos per metre means heavy lifting and long hours. It's relentless, and these guys need a break.
It's going to take some time, and we're going to have to be patient. We don't want to bend the cable too much because of the fibre optics inside, and we need to be able to look after it as we're installing it. So the more the merrier, and less stress on one person, the better it is.
The first loops are secure, and the team use electrical rotation to feed the cable on. With 150 revolutions to go, it'll take some time.
There another 20 minutes hopefully, and we've got the cable on, and my team can start to put it back together.
Finally, the last of the cable winds on, and Dan gives it his magic touch to tie it off.
Job done. Happy. We've got the job done, and I'm pretty happy.
Running under generator power to complete the connection, Reclaimer 411 does laps to bed in the cable. The beast is awakened. It's back to business, and the big boss couldn't be more proud of his team.
This is just big stuff. So the guys take a lot of pride in it. They really do. There's a lot of pride in making sure it goes well. Nobody's hurt and it's on time.
Port Waratah is a landscape of giants, and it's a place where the size and strength of mega machines is only matched by the skill and diligence of a team of mega mechanics.